Hello, welcome to another Becoming a Modern Man. We are playing Bant Spirits once again, and this time we are running up against Is It Phoenix? Generally regarded to be the best deck in the format at the moment, which I think is probably correct. So this is our opening hand. It's not great by any means, but we've got Horizon Canopies that can draw as an extra card. And we've got some early plays, so I'm going to see how this one goes. One leads off with an island. We'll play Horizon Canopy into Hierarch. We'll play Thing in the Ice, which is not great for us. This is actually, I might as well just talk about this now. I think this is probably like the best card in the matchup for them, and kind of the reason that this matchup is difficult, because them bouncing all our guys is never good for us, and we also don't have a lot of ways to remove the Awoken Horror once it's flipped. So yeah, kind of rough. Going to cast Supreme Phantom here and Mausoleum Wanderer. Everyone's going to Manamorphose here. I decided to sack my Mausoleum Wanderer to counter that, to prevent us just getting massively blown out, but I don't know whether that was the right thing to do or not, necessarily. I think possibly in the long term it wasn't the right thing to do. So play Cavern here, play Selfless Spirit and Hierarch, attack with Supreme Phantom for 3, pass the turn, put Serum Visions, passes the turn back, play Moorland Haunt here. So Moorland Haunt is quite good, or potentially good here, in that we can make a token after the opponent flips the Thing in the Ice and just chump block the 7 damage that we would otherwise take. So that's kind of interesting. Once onto that game plan though, they are going to try and surgical our Mausoleum Wanderer, which basically forces us to use Moorland Haunt now. I mean, we could leave it, but ultimately the result will be the same. So Serum Visions flips the Awoken Horror. Seven damage down to 11. Just gonna draw a card off this Horizon Canopy, see if I can dig us any deeper. Collected Company or something like that would be nice. Or Path to Exile, but Path to Exile is also good. So yeah, that's a nice draw here for us. So I'm gonna run out the Selfless Spirit and the Hierarch here. Pass the turn. I passed on my turn. I think in hindsight that was unnecessary, because I think I was playing around counter magic, which they don't really play. I wasn't as familiar with the Phoenix lists as I am now. I don't know. I don't know if it made a whole lot of difference, because we did need to stop the 7 power attack either way. But it has another Thing in the Ice, which obviously isn't great for us. We're going to be able to drop double Supreme Phantom here and a Hierarch. Attack for 6. We're going to put it down to 3. Put an Ops. Ops again. Oh no, Ops once, sorry. Serum Visions. Was that double opt? No, just a single one. Right, Serum Visions goes down to 2. Faithless Looting is the death knell, unfortunately for us, because our opponent manages to pitch 2 Arclight Phoenix and then has a Snapcaster to flashback anything basically, and then that's their 3rd spell cast. So Thing in the Ice will flip, 2 Arclight Phoenixes will come in pre-combat, and that finishes us off. So it was a close game, it was a tight game, but yeah, Faithless Looting just wrapped it up for them, and unfortunately we were not able to get the win here. So yeah, kind of rough. As you can see, Thing in the Ice is like a big problem for this in this matchup, and we don't have a lot of removal. Even post sideboard, when we bring in Path, we've only got 3 removal spells, so it can be pretty problematic. I think all the other stuff we can handle fairly reasonably, but Thing in the Ice is just such a big problem. We do have some answers to it though, and we'll see if that works out in game 2. So let's go on to that. Okay, so in terms of sideboarding for game 2 against Blue-Red Phoenix, the advice that I've been given is to take out a couple of the captains, a couple of images, one of the collected companies and the BOP, and then bring in the Path, which is obviously very good for answering their threats, which we kind of need. Thalia's come in as well for obvious reasons. Being able to tax their spells makes it much harder for them to cast 3 spells in one turn, so that is good. I also want to bring in the Geists just as a way of winning more quickly, wrapping up the game, and then obviously they don't have a ton of blockers. I suppose they still run Snapcasters, but I think Geist is actually fairly good in this matchup as a way of trying to pick up a speedy win. And then we also have Eidolon of Rhetoric, which prevents them from ever casting 3 spells in one turn, so that's another good option here for us. So those are the tips for sideboarding, so let's see how that fares in game 2. Okay, so here's our opener for game 2. Yeah, it's not too bad. We've got a turn 1 Vial, and then we can start dropping spirits. We've got our top end card, Collected Company. Collected Company is quite good as a way of putting creatures onto the battlefield at instant speed, so we can recover from a flipped Thing in the Ice. So I don't mind this hand. With Steam Vents into nothing. Draw Reflector Mage. So Reflector Mage is another one of our cards that can potentially help us deal with Thing in the Ice. Particularly with Vial in play, we can potentially drop it instant speed and bounce the thing in the eye, the Woken Horror once it's flipped. So they have to start all over again. So certainly glad to see that. Drop a Supreme Phantom here. Opponent's just going to bolt it. Then drop a Thing in the Ice, which isn't really what we want to see. Just going to Reflect a Mage and get rid of this Thing in the Ice now. We've got Phantasmal Image in hand, so my intention is that hopefully we can copy the image later on and then reflect the Mage the Thing in the Ice again at some point. And drop Supreme Phantom in at the end of turn. Opponent's got Snapcaster Bolt. There's a response which is going to kill off the Supreme Phantom. Going to keep a Vial on too. As I mentioned, I'm looking to Vial in this Phantasmal Image at some point. One class Thing in the Ice. Attacks for 2. Just going to hold off on the Phantasmal Image for the Reflector Mage. At the moment, it might be the wrong thing to do, but we just don't have a lot of pressure, so I think we want to wait for now. Put an Ops, taking the Thing in the Ice down to 3. Manamorphose. Snapcaster Manamorphose. So things are kind of playing into our hands here at this moment in time, or they certainly seem to be. It looks like our opponent's going to try and flip the Thing in the Ice, and then we can Phantasmal Image, Reflector Mage, the Thing in the Ice, back to hand, and then we've got our Reflector Mage, our Reflector Mage and Phantasmal Image would bounce back to hand, and we can restart that particular combo all over again. Unfortunately, our opponent doesn't play the third spell, the final spell to flip Thing in the Ice, and instead adds another Thing in the Ice to the board, which is problematic. So we're going to bounce the Thing in the Ice that's only got one counter on it. We could Collected Company there as well, but I didn't know if that was a good idea. Maybe it would have been, I'm not sure. I suppose potentially we could have hit back for quite a lot that turn. So Bant plays Arclight Phoenix, goes in with the attack. We Collected Company now. In hindsight, I should have responded to the Arclight Phoenix coming down, and that way we could have spell quelled it. We found a second Reflector Mage here, which is nice. So I'm going to bounce the Thing in the Ice. I think we're just going to take 3 here. I mean, we're not too scared of this Arclight Phoenix on its own. Get a Violent Geist here. I'm just going to attack. Geist is going to die to one of these Snapcasters, presumably, but we're still going to get in 4 damage. So it's hitting for 10 here, put our opponent down to 3. Cracks a Scalding Tarn. Attacks with Phoenix, puts us down to 9. And this is where it all goes wrong. So our opponent then drops Anger of the Gods on us, which just completely wipes our board. So just when we're looking like we might be winning things, Anger wraps this game up, to be honest. Yeah. So yeah, maybe we overcommitted. Maybe we could have found that extra 2 points of damage somewhere earlier in the game. I think maybe we should have played that Collected Company earlier and put a lot more pressure on. I mean, our opponent has 3 Thing in the Ice here. We draw Collected Company, which potentially could have given us an out, but I think to 3 Thing in the Ice, it's going to be too difficult. So opponent flashes back Faithless Looting. I mean, potentially, if they didn't flip here, then we could have just Collected Company and hit them for 2 in the air. But as it stands, our opponent is able to flip all the Awoken Horrors at once, and that is far too much for us to deal with. Also bringing Arclight Phoenix back into play. So yeah, not great. So this match, I mean, this match was pretty close. I think potentially if I played it more, played it differently, perhaps less conservatively, we would have ended up in a better spot. There was a position where we could have used the Reflector Mage, which would have prevented them from playing the second Thing in the Ice, which could have been game changing. And also there was a time when we decided not to play Collected Company when we could have done, which again could have turned things around. And the Collected Company, we didn't spell Quell the Arclight, although I think that probably worked out in our favour given our opponent ended up using Anger of the Gods. So yeah, I think we can dissect this match down a lot more. Potentially we could have won this one, but yeah, Thing in the Ice is a big problem, and I think probably one of the main reasons that this Bant Spirits deck is less popular now is that this matchup just in general isn't very good. They've got a lot of velocity, a lot of speed, and they're digging towards their answers, whereas we've got 3 Path to Exiles to answer Thing in the Ice, or 2 in the main deck actually, in our current build, and that just doesn't seem like enough. And also we can't dig because we've not really got any draw spells beyond Horizon Canopy. So we have cards that work in this matchup and that can help us win this matchup, but it's just been pretty rough. I've run into Phoenix a few times and yet to win. So it's not unwinnable, it's just very difficult and makes our life pretty problematic in general. Just not having the removal for the 7/8 creature that they are able to make is probably the biggest problem.